Great time of year. January is one of my most favorite months because we have time to reflect and enjoy the cold weather and all be together again. Welcome to the Agoura Hills City Council meeting. Please silence all cell phones and other electronic devices. If you wish to speak or submit a written comment, please complete a comment card for each item and submit it to the city clerk prior to the public comment portion of the item. I'm going to now call this meeting to order, and I'm so happy to welcome again Girl Scout Troop 176.
Good evening. We are Girl Scout Troop 176. Will the audience please rise? Color Guard advance. Color Guard post colors. Those not in uniform, please place your right hand over your heart. Please say with me the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Color Guard dismissed. The audience may be seated. Thank you.
Thank you. You did an excellent job. I could hear you nice and clear, and you were very authoritative, and handled it all really well. Thank you, ladies. We're now going to turn to the city clerk to take a roll call vote.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Councilmember Anstead?
Here.
Councilmember Lopez?
Here.
Councilmember Wolf?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester?
Here.
Mayor Buckley Weber?
Here.
Mayor Buckley Weber, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. There was no closed session held tonight, so there's no report. I'd like to get approval of tonight's agenda. So whoever makes the motion and seconds it, please state your name for the record.
This is Councilmember Chris Anstead. I'll make the motion to approve the agenda.
This is Councilmember Wolf. I'll second.
Madam Clerk, if you could take a roll call vote.
Councilmember Anstead?
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Wolf?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester?
Aye.
Mayor Buckley Weber?
Aye.
Mayor Buckley Weber, you have approval 5-0.
Thank you. We have no presentations tonight, which seems unusual, but there'll be plenty this year. We'll move on now to intergovernmental special purpose committee and departmental reports. And we have our Agoura Hills Library quarterly update, and I'd like to introduce Library Manager Nina Hull.
Is this a good height? Yes?
I can hear you fine, so whatever's comfortable for you.
Okay, so Madam Mayor Buckley Weber, City Manager Mr. Hamburger, City Council members, city staff. I'm here for my quarterly doings of the library at your Agoura Hills Library. So I wanted to let you know that we have been working with the National Wildlife Federation with an MOU with this library, the county library, to have the fireplace room turned into a display room for displays, as well as an interactive educational thing about the bridge and the animals. So that has been approved. So we are very delighted. We're hoping this will be set up in January, and if not January, February. So I also wanted to let you know, well, one of our most popular things in our library is the COVID kits. So the COVID antigen kits are supplied to us by the Department of Public Health, and they are still extremely popular and free to everyone. So I will tell you about our local programming our programming for the next 3 months, but I also wanted to let you know that we did have our Library Fest back in October, which was put on by LHQ, by headquarters. We had 839 people attending that session. We normally may have about 250 on a Saturday at that library. So That was done well. The other thing that we had that I know Madam Mayor is very interested in was Paul Stein did come back in December 16th, with a trio, a string trio who performed. We had about 90 to 95 people in your community room, and that is a very happy group. They are very happy to have that program again. So the Friends of the Library are graciously, again, we're going to have Paul back in either April or May, and this time we'll have a quartet, a string quartet, with lunch provided also by the Friends. So we're delighted. For the ongoing, the next 3 months, as I've told you last time I was here 3 months ago, or yeah, last quarter, we have about 8 active book clubs for going on, and 4 of those book clubs are offered twice in the same day, one virtual, one in person, because it's for the convenience of our customers. So as well as we have an active teen group that meets over at Lindero and also in the library itself. And we're starting a elementary book club in person this month, so that's happening too. And we are starting, God help us all, a romantasy book club. So all of you who have heard about The Fourth Wing and the second book, The Iron Flame, we are having a book club for that. So, and I am not doing it, trust me. I'm not. Not romance, not fantasy. So Katie will be doing that book club. So we're excited about that. For the adults, though, coming up, we will be having these are also programs that are paid for by the Friends of the Library, a mindfulness program on January 27th, a ceramic painting program of ceramic mugs in February, and a succulent gardening program in March. For the children, what's coming up on January 26th on a Friday is LA Opera's coming back to do Bambino, and that is for 0 to 3-year-olds. And I think I've told you before, it is quite charming to watch these children completely enchanted by these performers from LA Opera. So it really is fun. So in February, we'll be having Sunshine Storytime, which is with drums. And then the one in March is the one, if I had young children, I'd be bringing them to, and that is creative cooking. It is for 4 to 12-year-olds, and I think that'll be a big hit. So, and then I thought I'd just give you a little brief thing about what's going on in the library since the pandemic, so that you have a feel for what's happening. The children's books is by far the most popular in that library. They've always had about 25% of our circulation is children. We're probably up to around 30 to 32% now, so there's more circulation among the children. We run our libraries like the CEO for Barnes & Noble, which means our librarians know this community, we know what they like. We make sure that when books are sent from headquarters, and they do, county supplies books, if there are books that we know our community wants, the Friends of the Library buy them for us. So we do that on a monthly basis, thanks to the generosity of the Friends. The other thing that happened back in October was your 2 study rooms, and all study rooms in the county libraries can be booked electronically. So that you don't have to call us up and say, can I have a room Tuesday from 2 to 4 or anything like that. And I thought it's worked so well just to have people call to ask for those rooms. So I thought, no, I don't know. The electronic thing is actually, I think, a very good thing, because we see people using those rooms that we didn't before. We've never seen them come in, and they just automatically book it either on the app, on the website, or on the thing what's the thing you look with your camera at it? What's it called?
Oh,
yeah, there you go. And then the other thing is that people in the library. So your staff know we have a number of people that are in our library every day because they know the cars. And so no problem people, that's not what I'm talking to you about. In that library nowadays, we have people that are there all day, adults. They're possibly businessmen, maybe they're gaming, businessmen and women. I'm not sure what they're doing, but they are very much working very diligently. The other group I see in that library is, looks like upper high school and college students that come in, and they work in groups. They're very intent. They don't necessarily come, all day because they're busy. But they come in, they do the study rooms sometimes, and other times they're just in the library, but there's groups working on, obviously, projects. And we have, obviously, children coming in, which we're always really happy with, especially in the afternoon. And after you all go home at night, it's amazing that I have people that come in with their parents after 6 o'clock with their kids. And I'm sitting there going, aren't you guys going to bed? But no, they're getting books. So, and also in a library, any library, including ours, this time of year when it's cold and there's rain, we have individuals that I know probably don't have terrific housing. So we welcome them. They don't cause, everything is terrific, but I see more people that are coming in to get warm, and I'm delighted with that. And with that, does anyone have any questions?
Does anybody have any questions for Manager Hall? I've got a couple. If somebody were to come in, would they be able to charge their electronics, their phones, their iPad?
Yeah, there are some charging stations, yes. Most people are coming with their own hotspots, by the way. So, and by the way, the county is starting, I think it's this next week, when you borrow a laptop from the county, they actually took the hotspot thing out because they realized people just wanted the hotspots. And so what they're starting this next week is you can get just the hotspots. And that's what people really want.
Okay. And if our residents wanted to know more about dates and times for the programs, what's the website they would go to? LA County's library?
LACountyLibrary.org. We have the flyers all over the place, and so they can always call us. So we're delighted to have them call and say hi. So.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for the update. We really appreciate it. I love hearing about the library.
Madam Mayor, may I ask a question?
Yes, absolutely.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the MOU with the Wildlife Federation and what that looks like? And is there going to be programming or just provide a little more detail?
The MOU is what's called a no-cost MOU because the county is very involved with, we used to be able to do something with another organization and didn't have to do anything special. But now, in the last 2 years, we have to do no-cost MOUs. So I've done that with the National Wildlife Federation. So it is defined. They will come and they're going to do 2 programs a year. They will come in and they will do an interactive program that'll be, like I said, set up in the fireplace room, as well as displays, and they will change that out. The second thing I'm going to do is work with them on the children's area, which would be a separate no-cost MOU with the same idea that we have more educational materials in that library, in the children's area, to encourage that so your people are coming in and learning.
Great. Thank you for the fantastic work you're doing.
All right. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
I'm glad that all got approved.
Yes.
It's great news.
Better be.
Okay, moving on. Are there any reports from staff? Nothing? How about any reports from City Council? Nothing. All right. So let's move on to public comments. This section is reserved for persons wishing to speak on items not listed on the agenda that are under the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. If you wish to speak, please submit a public comment card to the City Clerk. Public testimony is limited to 3 minutes per speaker, and a speaker's time may not be transferred to another speaker. Persons addressing the City Council shall not engage in disorderly conduct that disrupts or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of the meeting. We respectfully request that if you have something to distribute to the City Council, you hand it to our City Clerk and do not approach the dais. Madam Clerk, do we have any in-person public comments for matters not on the agenda?
We did not receive any written public comments. We do have speakers this evening. Peter Feller, followed by Carl Lindner. If you go ahead and step up to the microphone and adjust it to your, there you go.
Welcome. And I don't know if you've testified before, but when the red light comes on, your 3 minutes are up.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council members and staff. My name is Peter Feller, and I'm a 27-year resident of Agoura Hills and have been evacuated twice from my house due to wildfire. I'm here representing the board of the newly formed Agoura Hills Fire Safe Council, of which I'm president. We'll start with the bad news. Agoura Hills is cited by CAL FIRE as a very high fire hazard severity zone. Riskfactor.com states that 6,511 properties in Agoura Hills are at some time at some risk of being affected by wildfire over the next 30 years, representing 99% of all properties in Agoura Hills. Wildfire is by far the biggest threat to residents and structures in Agoura Hills, Although the Council has devoted time and resources to responding to wildfires, not enough has been done in the area of prevention to address this threat, hence the formation of the Agoura Hills Fire Safe Council. More residents have been and will be impacted by wildfire than any other threat. Not only is wildfire the biggest threat, but of all the threats, our ability to prevent and defend against this threat is the easiest, least costly, and most effective. Besides the actual threat of wildfire to our homes, the insurance crisis has exacerbated the wildfire threat. Residents are having their home insurance cancelled or costs increased by 6 times. For most people, the homes are their biggest investment that they make, or make up the biggest chunk of their retirement. The good news, I lead a group of concerned residents creating Firewise communities. Our sole purpose is to protect life and property through education, home hardening, and defensible space around the community. We've created a robust, informative website, agourahillsfsc.org. Experts tell us that home hardening and defensible space can reduce wildfire by as much as 75%. New legislation by the California Insurance Commissioner instructs insurance companies to give Firewise communities discounts between 5 and 25%. Our efforts will get these discounts to Agoura Hills residents. But we cannot do this without serious support from the city. I have met with Council Member Jeremy Wolf and Mayor Pro Tem Penny Sylvester, who've expressed their full support for our wildfire prevention programs. We are also grateful for the time staff members Nathan Hamburger and Louis Salea have already given us, but more programming, coordination, budgeting are needed. I urge the Council to prioritize what residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight, and I would encourage you to continue working with Louis or City Manager Nate Hamburger on our budget, how our budget works and our goal setting in March.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Carl Lindner.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Carl Lindner, and I've lived in my home on Dovetail Drive for approximately 26 years. What drew us to this area and the Lake Lindero neighborhood was the community and the schools. A bonus for us was that my son could walk to Yerba Buena and Lindero Canyon Middle School since they were on the same campus. We obviously put up with the morning and afternoon traffic rush as a price to pay for living so close to the schools. Fast forward to the recent past, and YB is now at its new location, or has been at its new location, and the Lindero Canyon Middle School remained at the original site. That's about when I noticed changes in school traffic. There were changes for the worse, and they're not improving. In addition to traffic generated by parents who are dropping off students at either YB or LCMS, there are also parents who have children at both locations. It would appear that parents have not made allowances for making one, let alone 2 stops. So they resort to racing through our adjacent neighborhood to get their kids to both schools on time. It's a dangerous situation that I witness on a daily basis when walking my dog. Some parents, with children still in the car, roll through the stop signs and don't even wait for crossing guards to get themselves or the walking children through the intersection and across to the other side. I've heard parents shouting expletives at and seen others flipping off the crossing guards. I know these are volunteers. They don't need this. Parents who just drop their own children off don't seem to care about the safety of someone else's children. Lake Lindero neighborhood has become less safe for pedestrians due to speed and discourteous and distracted driving exhibited during the morning and afternoon school rush. I believe that the entire Lake Lindero neighborhood north of Thousand Oaks Boulevard should be considered a school zone based on the between schools traffic. I was going to suggest additional speed bumps on Dovetail and Wheelhouse, but admittedly I've witnessed people speeding even on roads with speed bumps. I believe more aggressive enforcement of the residential speed limits and a crackdown on moving violations will send a more clear message. I'm making my appearance tonight to notify City Council and law enforcement in the hopes that necessary actions will be taken to remedy the situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming tonight. And I'm sure that our Law Enforcement and Public Safety Subcommittee has heard what you say, and I know that we've been working on this and working with the sheriff's, Lost Hill Sheriff Station, so we'll continue to do that. But thank you for coming in and starting the year off with that. Public safety is obviously a #1 concern for everybody on the council and the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Buckley Weber. We have no further speakers.
Thank you. So now we'll move on to the consent calendar. This section is reserved for persons wishing to speak on items on the consent calendar. If you wish to speak, please submit a public comment card to the city clerk. Public testimony is limited to 3 minutes per speaker, and a speaker's time may not be transferred to another speaker. We respectfully request that if you have something to distribute to the city council, you hand it to our city clerk and do not approach the dais. I will now defer to the city clerk to let us know if we have anything.
Thank you. No written public comments have been received and no speaker cards have been submitted.
Thank you. Are there any, has any city council member expressed a desire to pull something off of the consent calendar? Okay, seeing none, does any city council member have any questions for staff about any of the items on the consent calendar? Thank you. So now I'm looking for a motion and a second to adopt the consent calendar.
This is Deborah Klein Lopez. I'll move to adopt the consent calendar.
Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester seconds.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, will you take a roll call?
Councilmember Anstead? Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Wolf?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester?
Aye.
Mayor Buckley Weber?
Aye.
Mayor Buckley Weber, you have approval 5-0.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to public hearings. Our next item is a public hearing to consider the adoption of resolution number 24-5052, approving Community Development Block Grant, CDBG program, and projects for the 50th program year. I'll now open the public hearing and defer to Administrative Analyst John Treicher for the staff presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Buckley Weber, council members. Happy New Year. Good to see everybody. Good evening. I would like to present the consideration for the city's use of the allotted community development block grant funds for the upcoming 2024-25 fiscal year. In addition, even though our city council members are familiar with what the grant provides, I will give a brief introduction to what the community development block grant is for those in attendance this evening and those watching remotely. Each year, the Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG funds, they are allocated to cities by the Federal Housing and Urban Development Department, known as HUD, and administered through the Los Angeles County Development Authority, the LACDA. Funding for the Los Angeles Urban County CDBG program is administered by the number of participating cities, as well as cities needed to provide housing, economic and social services, community development opportunities that principally benefit seniors and persons of low to moderate income, along with our certain projects for compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. In previous years, City Council has approved projects such as our new ADA ramp at the Recreation and Event Center and the Forest Cove Rehabilitation Project, in addition to the annual allotment for senior social service classes being offered through the Community Services Department. These classes include various services such as caregiver support, assistance with finances, health care, and they are provided by Senior Concerns through virtual meetings. This year, the city's annual CDBG allocation of funds for the 2024-25 program year is $67,000, and with that, we do have an allocated amount of $255,580, bringing our total to $322,580. The LACDA will release a final appropriations amount from the HUD in spring of 2024. On December 5th, 2023, staff met with the Community Services Subcommittee to discuss the future goals and projects And after much discussion, the subcommittee recommended the following: to go and continue the support for the Senior Social Services Program at a cost of $10,000 and designate the remaining funds towards enhancing the playground and park restroom rehabilitation project at Chumash Park. Chumash Park's scope of work is making improvements to the path of travel leaving Medea Valley Drive all the way to the playground area, including the removal of concrete areas surrounding the current restroom, adding a concrete bib where permittable surrounding the playground, and we will be replacing existing benches with ADA compliant benches. As mentioned in the report, the restroom structure will also be replaced, but that will fall under a different funding source. Right now, the preliminary engineering cost estimate for Chumash Park's project is approximately $250,000, which is higher than anticipated. And since this is a preliminary estimate, it should be noted that the cost for building materials may continue to rise due to supply demands. So staff will have a better evaluation of costs once the project goes through the bidding process. At this time, there is no fiscal impact, impact as funds were appropriated in the fiscal year 2024-25 budget. Similar to last year, staff is requesting the City Council to approve the allotment of $10,000 towards the Senior Social Services Program and designate the remaining funds of $57,000 towards the Chumash Park Rehabilitation Project. Should the City Council approve Resolution number 24-2052, the next step would be to get final approval from the LACDA. And following those required approvals, staff anticipates the bidding process to begin in the spring of the 2024 calendar year. Staff respectfully asks you to conduct a public hearing for consideration on approving Resolution number 24-2052, the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG programs and projects for the 50th program year for the 2024-2025 fiscal year. This does conclude my report, and myself and Amy Brink, the Director of Community Services, are available to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Treichler. Before we move on to public comment, does any council member have any questions on the staff presentation? No questions. Okay. Then this section is now reserved for public comment. If you wish to speak, please submit a public comment card to the city clerk. Public testimony is limited to 3 minutes per speaker, and a speaker's time may not be transferred to another speaker. We respectfully request that if you have something to distribute to the city council, you hand it to our city clerk and do not approach the dais. The public hearing is open. I will now defer to the city clerk for public comments.
Thank you, Mayor Buckley Weber. No written public comments have been received, and no speaker cards have been submitted.
Okay, before closing the public hearing, do any council members have any further questions for staff? Seeing none, I will now close the public hearing. Before we move on to deliberations, does any council member have any further comments? We'll now move on to deliberations. Why don't we start with Council Member Wolf?
Great, thank you. I want to first thank the Community Service Subcommittee for putting in the work on this, and I think this is a fantastic use of the funding. I can make all the findings. I want to thank staff for their work on this, and I am comfortable moving forward after hearing the presentation, so thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Klein-Lopez?
Thank you. Love the CDBG grants. That's, wonderful source of funding for us. I'm so glad that, as always, we'll put our normal allocation towards our senior social program, which is so beloved and used, and just so thankful that those funds are there to be able to provide that service to our seniors. And, we've worked really hard to save up and get ready for the Chumash renovation, so happy to see this is kind of closing the gap on that and ready to move forward, so thank you.
How about Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester?
Thank you. Yes, Councilmember Ansett and I sat on the Community Services Subcommittee, and I'd like to thank Amy Brink and all her staff for all the hard work they put into this. I'm very excited about it. Chumash Park is where we have our summer concerts. It's where the community gathers, I think, the most en masse. So anything we do to improve that park will benefit all our residents. So I'm totally in favor of everything. And again, I love the senior programs, and I always wish we could have more. So anything we can give them is great. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilmember Anstead?
I just want to say, excuse me, that I think this is a great use of the funds. I personally, anything to enhance our parks is something that I'm all for, and to be able to use these funds to be able to do that, and also be able to make ADA compliant benches there and be able to make it more accessible for our seniors as well as our young, I think is fantastic. So I'm all for this moving forward. I can make the findings. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And I don't have much to add other than we've been working as a goal to rehabilitate all of our parks in the city of Agoura Hills for probably a decade now. And we finished Sumac Park, which was absolutely fabulous. And now we're back on board with Shumash. So it's very exciting, and I look forward to it all coming to fruition. I know it'll take a couple of years, but I feel confident that we'll get there. So I, too, can support this. So now the staff recommendation is to adopt resolution number 24-2052. I'll call on a motion and a second to approve the staff recommendation.
Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester so moves.
Do I get a second?
I'll second. This is Deborah Klein Lopez.
Thank you. And now, Madam Clerk, will you take a roll call?
Councilmember Anstead?
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Wolf?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester?
Aye.
Mayor Buckley Weber?
Aye.
Mayor Buckley Weber, you have approval 5-0.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to the next public hearing to consider the adoption of resolution number 24-5054, 5054, establishing new fees for use and occupancy of city-owned electric vehicle charging stations, EVCS. I'll now open the public hearing and defer to Administrative Analyst John Treichler again for the staff presentations. Big night, John.
Hi, I'm new. Hi, everybody. Good evening again, everybody. Honorable Buckley Weber, Mayor, council members, presenting for consideration the city switching from a flat use rate to the per kilowatt rate as it pertains to the 6 city-owned electric vehicle charging stations. The city's participation in the SCE Charge Ready program further assisted its continued commitment for providing services promoting and supporting environmentally friendly vehicles. As mentioned earlier, the city now has 6 level 2 charging stations with 9 publicly accessible ports. For this service to be both environmentally and fiscally sustainable, the city has assessed the cost of services associated with providing the charging stations for public use. Some of these charges, such as energy charges, are variable depending on the time of day and the time of year the electricity is used, bringing the term time of use rates, or TOU. The TOU rates are designed to take advantage of renewable energy generation, such as solar, and encourage customers to shift loads when lower costs of electricity is available. Staff worked with both the Clean Power Alliance, SCE, and ChargePoint, which is our charging station carrier, to present industry standard fee structures that are not only commonly used, but are used in local areas in the Los Angeles County. In the staff report, there is a graph showing what the surrounding cities are charging currently. Currently, our city is charging a flat fee of $1 per hour, and after 2 hours, a station fee is administered to $2, bringing that total to $3 an hour as they use our services. After meeting with the Finance Subcommittee first on November 8th, and then again on December 6, 2023, the subcommittee reviewed the data requested of both energy and operational costs in comparison to better the city's efforts on recapturing expenses. As stated in the report, each station roughly is about $1,413 to run per year, and the city is recapturing 73% of that amount, still leaving a deficiency of roughly $382, and that is per station. So the subcommittee determined the following option for consideration: to recapture closer to the full amount of operating costs, bringing the recommendation of 35 cents per kilowatt hour including implementing a $3 station fee. Now, that station fee will be added 20 minutes after a vehicle has come to a complete charge, so it's not something that goes into effect immediately, kind of after a grace period. In addition to establishing an electric vehicle charging rate for the city-owned charging stations, staff would also like City Council to consider allowing for future rate adjustments that will accommodate the increases not only in electricity rates, equipment maintenance and operational costs, but also to adjust possibly for changes in the Consumer Pricing Index, CPI. For fiscal impact, switching from the flat rate dollar per hour to a per kilowatt charging rate will have minimal impact on the adopted fiscal year 23-24 budget. Staff respectfully recommends the City Council conduct a public hearing and adopt resolution number 24-2053, approving the new fee structure and including allowing for future rate adjustments to accommodate the increases in electricity rates, equipment and operational costs, and/or charges to the Consumer Pricing Index. And that does conclude my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. Before we start with questions, I want to make sure, is this resolution 24-5052, or I thought I just heard you say 24 through 5053?
2053, I believe.
Okay,
It was
because
in
my script
section
says
with
2052, so I just want to make sure when I get to it that I have the right number. Okay, so the public hearing is now open. I'll defer to the city clerk for public comments.
Thank you. No written comments have been received and no speaker cards have been submitted.
Okay. You know, I don't recall if I made the announcement, so I should do that just for the record. This section is reserved for public comment. If you wish to speak, please submit a public comment card to the city clerk. Public testimony is limited to 3 minutes per speaker, and a speaker's time may not be transferred to another speaker. We respectfully request that if you have something to distribute to the city council, you hand it to our city clerk and do not approach the dais. We have no public comments. So before closing the public hearing, do any council members have any questions of staff? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing, and now we're going to move on to deliberations, and I'd like to start with the Finance Subcommittee. Why don't we start with Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester? Oh, I'm sorry. You two are on it?
We were when this was discussed.
Okay. I thought I heard something else. Okay. So let's start with Councilmember Klein-Lopez.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Councilmember Wolf was on the Finance Committee with me when this came through last year before our reorganization, so that's why it was a little confusing. But I want to thank JT, I want to thank staff for answering all our questions. We went into a pretty deep dive of how much we were charging, what the absorption rate was, and all of that. We definitely want to encourage people to stop and charge, so we did not want to set rates too high. We don't want to penalize people. We want to really encourage them to use our chargers. And that said, we also don't want to necessarily subsidize either. So our goal is to try to break even. We're happy with the addition of the station charge so that after 20 minutes, it encourages people to move along because we do want those spaces to flow, to constantly be open for people passing through. So again, I want to thank staff for the deep analysis. We were very deliberate in how we wanted to structure this, and we think this is a good compromise. So with that, I'm ready to proceed. I'm sure Councilmember Wolf has more to add.
Member Wolf?
Thank you. I want to start by thanking Mr. Treichler. It's the first time I've called you that. But this was an item that we heard 2 different times in the subcommittee because it was so important. And it was really a tough balancing act to find out how do we make this work for both to make financial sense and to be economical for residents. And I think that we've come to that with what's been presented tonight. So I'm proud of this. I think it's going to incentivize folks to come charge here while being economically reasonable. So I am able to make all the findings, and I want to thank Councilmember Klein-Lopez for her expertise on on electric vehicles and charging, that she was really instrumental, and thank JT for your awesome work on this. So I can make all the findings and move forward.
Thank you very much. Now we'll move to Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Finance Subcommittee for all their hard work, and also to JT and the rest of our staff. I agree with Councilmember Wolf. It's wonderful that we are providing charging stations. I think it's great we've got some by the library here, so everyone can come and see the interactive display of the wildlife bridge and charge their car. And also that we have them up at the senior center. And also, you know, not just seniors, but anyone else that attends events up there. So I can make all the findings. I'm fully in support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Anstead.
I as well can make the findings here. I think this is something that we should not be subsidizing. I think that we need to make sure that we come out whole here on these stations, and I think it's great. The charges are not expensive. It's very reasonable, especially when you look at it compared to the other surrounding cities in the area, and it also furthers our climate action plan as well. So I'm all for it.
Thank you. I don't have a lot to add. I thank the Finance Committee as well. I also thank Mr. Treichler for working with me. There's so many variables here, so it's hard to find that balance because it depends how fast the charging, how strong the fast charging station is, what kind of vehicle you have, are you just topping off, or are you recharging, the full vehicle? So I can make all the findings, and I'm happy to move forward with it. And I would just think that Mr. Treichler and I went through some interesting, scenarios of, that Councilmember Klein-Lopez could possibly have to leave a meeting to go move her car if it was over 2 hours and she was charging here. So we had some fun with that, some different examples, weddings. We made the stationary, I'm all for going up to $3. We may have to increase that, but I would say right now I think $3 is good until we see if we actually have a problem. We may not, but I think that's, it's all good. And I appreciate you taking the time to try and find the balance, because we don't want to subsidize it, but we also don't want to not have anybody there. If it's too expensive, nobody's going to use our chargers. So I really appreciate the work that all of you have done. So thank you. With that, the staff recommendation is to adopt resolution number 24-2052. And I'd like to get a motion and a second. Please state your names.
So moved. This is Deborah Klein-Lopez.
This is Councilmember Wolf. I'll second.
Thank you. Can the clerk?
I think it's 20.
It's 2053. That's
Yes.
right. See, mine says 2052. I apologize. Okay, so, and thank you for correcting that for the record. So now can we have the city clerk take a roll call vote?
Councilmember Anstead?
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Wolf?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester? Mayor Buckley Weber?
Aye.
Mayor Buckley Weber, you have approval, 5-0.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to a third public hearing to consider the adoption of resolution number 24-5054, establishing new, wait a second. Okay. Something's wrong with mine. Give me 1 second here. Okay, got it. Okay, the next item is a discussion, not a public hearing, regarding the adoption of resolution number 24-2054 is what mine says, okay? Approving the pre-approved accessory dwelling unit ADU plans program for use by the public in obtaining permits for construction of an ADU. I will now defer to Community Development Director Denise Thomas for the staff presentation.
Waiting, sorry. There we are. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council members. My name is Denise Thomas. I'm the Community Development Director here in the city. This evening, I'm going to present a briefing for you. I'm going to give you kind of an overview of a program that we are hoping to institute. I'll go through the background, some program details, then I'll discuss what the benefits are to the homeowners in the city of Agoura Hills, I'll walk you through the exhibits that we've prepared to go on our website with public information, our application, and our plans. And then finally, I'll ask for your blessing on instituting this program. We'll start with the background. So our certified housing element includes a program that allows us to reduce barriers to construction of housing, especially affordable housing. The pre-approved accessory dwelling unit program that we hope to institute will allow property owners to submit a request for a zoning clearance, identifying the location of the proposed accessory dwelling unit on their property as part of a site plan, and then providing minimal information to demonstrate that the requirements of the city's ordinances are being met. Once that process is complete, in many instances it'll be done in the same day over the counter, property owners will be able to receive a building permit to construct one of the pre-approved accessory dwelling unit plans that we have. There are 3 different models with 3 different facades each, and there would be no additional plan check fees or anything like that. They would be able to go and begin building once they pay their fee for the permit itself. As you're aware, SB2 was a grant that we were awarded, and a portion of that grant was used to pay for this program. We are lucky enough, I guess you can call it lucky, to be able to count 8 accessory dwelling units per year for the 10-year RENA cycle, which is our regional housing needs assessment allocation. And we have 318 units that we're responsible for at various levels of affordability. And within that 10-year period, we're allowed to count 80 ADUs toward that requirement. So we brought, initially this idea came to be when staff competed for the grant. We identified a pre-approved ADU program. When I began working here, one of the main issues that I noticed is that property owners believe that because it's a small house, that they can do all the work themselves, and that just truly isn't the case. They are habitable structures, and because they're habitable, we have to make sure that they're safe for people to be inside, which oftentimes would require additional plans and studies that the public was unfamiliar with. And so working with Lucas Quash, our building official, and our RM design group, who's done lots of work here in the city, we were able to bring to you some facades to get your feedback some months ago. And then we took the feedback that you gave us and we developed this program. So the program that I'm going to run you through has, we have 3 different product types. One is a 550 square foot ADU. One is a 750 square foot 1-bedroom ADU, and then there's a 1,000 square foot ADU that's 2 bedrooms. We have perfectly square units, and we also have one that's more of a rectangle because the rectangle allows, it can be sited on more properties within the city. The floor plans themselves, as I've indicated, are a studio, a 1-bedroom, and a 2-bedroom. But most importantly, the architectural styles that I will be presenting to you are the styles that you selected as part of our initial review of this project. And I just wanted to kind of give you kudos because Senate Bill or Assembly Bill 1332 will require all local jurisdictions to have pre-approved accessory dwelling unit plans available as of January 1 of 2025. And due to our ability to convince you to allow us to use RRM, we are able to institute the program almost a full year in advance of when the state law goes into effect. And we are one of the few cities in the area that actually has pre-approved plans. So I want to thank you for your foresight. The program details associated with this, the program details include a permit guide, which helps to guide the public through the process, ADU plan types, which I will show you in a bit. It outlines, it makes it very easy for the public to select which type they want and then select which facade they'd like to have. The information also includes a checklist, and that checklist walks them through in exhaustive detail what is needed in order to be successful in receiving approval. We also have a sample site plan that's part of the public information. We have a sample project information, so the public can use it as a guide when filling out their own applications. And finally, we have a pre-approved accessory dwelling unit frequently asked questions handout. All of these things will be populated on a web page so that if the public is interested in utilizing this program, they can go to one place and receive all the information necessary so that they can get through our process. So the question is, what are the benefits to the property owners for utilizing this program? Well, design costs by themselves are estimated to be between $10,000 and $15,000. That would include the architectural design, the engineering design, the interior design and consultation, and the energy modeling. On top of that, the city fees are between $1,000 and $2,000, and that's largely the plan review fees, and the time spent is 3 to 6 or more months. It just depends on how many rounds of reviews we need to do. So the overall benefit of using our program means that the $10,000 to $15,000 you would pay on design costs as a property owner has already been taken care of through this program, so you don't have to pay that if you use the pre-approved plans, and it saves you 3 to 6 months because in a perfect world, you come in with a completed application because you were very diligent and used the public information on our webpage, and at the counter, one of our staff members can walk through the checklist, see that you're compliant, and issue you a building permit right then and there, and you can begin building, so it saves time. I'm going to now walk you through kind of images of what the public information that's going to be on our website will look like. In the interest of time, I'm not going to read the document to you, but if anyone has any questions about any of this material, you're welcome to reach out to me directly, or you could reach out to Dawn Robinson if it's a land use issue, or you can reach out to Lucas Quash, our building official, if it's a building and safety issue. So on the screen before you is an illustrative of the graphic that we're going to put on our webpage. The graphic itself gives a nice overview of what the program is intended to do, talks about the goals and the benefits, and it has images of the 3 different design types that you selected last fall. We've also included a infographic that shows kind of the steps associated with the process, and it includes buttons that would let you know all of these different steps that you would have to take, so you're not lost in our process. I will walk through this for those who are watching the video or watching the meeting so that they understand what these buttons say, because the writing is kind of small and you may miss it. So step 1 would be to prepare your application permit materials. Then city staff will review what you submit, and then we will assess the project valuation and then contact outside agencies such as our fire department and our the Las Virgenes Water District. We will then, you would then submit your application for review, and we would review the application. We would issue a permit, then we would do inspections on the work as it's progressing, and then finally you would receive a final inspection, which functions as a certificate of occupancy. On the screen before you is an image of what our permit guide looks like. Again, it provides an overview of what the project is. It breaks down the individual steps associated with the process in discrete locations with all of the checklist items in those areas. And if you'll notice, these steps correlate to the infographic that I just went through. So step 1, prepare your permit. Step 2, review our submission requirements. Step 3 would be assess your valuation. 4 is contact outside agencies. Then you submit your application in step 5. We do our review, we issue you a permit, You begin construction, we do inspections to make sure it's safe, and then finally, when it's all done, we give you a final inspection, which will function as a certificate of occupancy, and you can begin to enjoy the space. We also took time to develop a frequently asked questions list. This frequently asked questions list was derived largely from questions the staff has received over the time that we've been issuing ADUs. Our goal is to try and be helpful and to try and help you solve problems that you may have so that you can make decisions early on in the process so that you don't get caught in endless rounds of reviews. The application itself there's an image of the application on the screen. As you can see, we endeavored to divide all of the information up by work group so that review for individual staff members would be facilitated, but more importantly, so you as an applicant would be able to determine what you need for each individual agent or each individual division so that you can get through our process in a more expeditious manner. If you'll notice, outside agency approval, we've gone to I wouldn't call it trouble. Well, we've gone through and we've identified all of the outside agencies that you would need to contact, which includes LA County Fire, LA County Environmental Health, Las Virgenes Water District, the school district, and SoCal Edison. This image depicts kind of a sample of what a site plan should look like. Many people who come into the city may not be familiar with the development process, and we wanted to educate them. So we provided a sample of what our site plan looks like, what the site plan should have in it. We've created a form that helps walk them through what the zoning is and what the zoning requirements would be, and the information can be readily accessible so that when staff looks at it, we're not hunting through a bunch of sheets to try and find the information. It's right here. Which brings us to the plans. So these may look familiar to you. We have 3 different architectural styles which capture the majority of the architectural styles found in the city. We have a cottage architectural style, a ranch architectural style, and a Spanish architectural style. The floor plan that you see on the screen is the 550 square foot studio apartment or studio unit. This one on the screen represents the 1-bedroom unit, which is 750 square feet, all in the same 3 styles. There are slight differences because this one is a little bit bigger, but essentially it's the same architectural features are being used throughout so that we have cohesion in our ADUs that are being developed as part of this process. And on the screen before you now is the 2-bedroom, 1,000 square foot floor plan, again in the 3 architectural styles that you selected last fall. To make things easy for property owners when they come in, our building official has gone and sorted through all of the plans. On the actual plan set, he went through the exercise of separating them into 9 discrete packages. We tried to get the consultant to do it, but they wouldn't. So Lucas went over and above to make sure that it would be really easy to hand out and for the public to use. And so for that, I want to acknowledge him and tell him that I believe that that is a value-add service that he did for our residents. The form is set up so that you select what type of product you want, which architectural style you want, and then you'll be given a downloadable link where you can download the plans, and then those are the plans you would use to construct the units. With that, staff respectfully recommends that the City Council adopt Resolution 24-2054 and approve the program for use by the public to obtain building permits for construction of pre-approved ADUs per the city's requirements. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Before we move on to public comment, does any city council member have questions on the staff presentation? Councilmember Wolf?
Hi, thank you for that great presentation. And I'm sure this was covered in the frequently asked questions, but if, why, a project couldn't be 1,005 square feet? Is 1,000 the max to be ministerially approved?
The 1,000 square foot is for the units that are already pre-approved. And so you could choose to construct a ADU that is greater than 105. You could also choose to not use these pre-approved ADU plans and design whatever you want for your property. Does that answer your
That
question?
does make sense, but then it wouldn't be ministerial, correct? They would have to go through the review process, or is this, or that's not the case? ADUs are ministerial no matter what the square footage is. This is just the pre-approved project samples that the city are providing.
Yes, this is just the pre-approved plans. And what pre-approved means, for those who don't know, is the units have been designed and they've been plan checked. And so they are ready to go as long as you make no changes. So if you take these, you build these, and we don't need any more review because we reviewed all 9 of them one time, and we don't need to review them again. We just need to inspect them. But to your question, Councilmember Wolf, if someone says, you know, that doesn't really work for me, then they would have to go through the process. And we have tiers, depending on what you want to give, that dictate what your process would be. Some are building permit only because state law says that they go straight to building permit. Others require some sort of a zoning clearance, and then if you exceed the thresholds, then you have to go and get additional approvals.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Thank you. My next question is, it said 3 to 6 months. What does that mean, 3 to 6 months? Like,
On average, it used to take 3 to 6 months to get ADUs from the time that our countertech, Dawn, received the information and it made it all the way through planning and made it through building permit. It could be a minimum of 3 months, and it could go beyond 6 months, depending on what the comments were. With this, that's done. You can come in, and if you have your site plan ready to go and your application is complete and everything checks out, we can issue you the building permit over the counter. So the 3 to 6 months is gone.
okay, that makes perfect sense. And then my last question is regarding the utilities. If utilities are not able to connect to the ADU, does that make it not eligible, or that is not a criteria?
For that one, I'm going to defer to the building official. So, Lucas.
Well, utility is there. So, you know, if you have a primary home, there would be sewer, there would be electrical services. So the assumption is there, but, you know, and so you would connect to the existing system. If you have, let's say, a septic system, then we would require them to go through the county to go through the process of making sure that the septic system is adequate, or it might need to be expanded. So that would be, you know, kind of a slightly off the standard.
So just to follow up on that, so if it is on septic, it would need to go through the county permitting process. So, or what would that look like if they're on septic and they pick one of our plans here?
No, let me clarify that. So the plans would be fine. It's just the septic system itself. You know, so normally, let's say if you do a new ADU, you would connect to the existing sewer system, the public sewer system. But let's say if you have your existing primary house is on, you know, a septic system, then we ask that the applicant submit the plans for the expansion, for the added load to the septic system at the county, the LA County Environmental Health. So it's just for that specific item. It's not the whole, they're not approving the whole plan because that's already been approved.
Right. And so if the county sees it and they say that, well, this ADU can't connect to the septic or they can't handle the load, is that means for denial or it has to be approved?
Yeah, so, I mean, there's usually, if there's already an existing system there, 99% that it would be, you just make it larger, a little bit larger, or you have to add, instead of a linear system, you might have to be a deepened system. So it's usually just a design part. It's not like a new, it's not a new land that you have to kind of go through the process. There's already an existing system.
Okay, that makes sense. I appreciate it. And Denise, I'm sorry to make you get up. Thank you.
Councilmember Lopez?
Thank you. Just want to clarify a few things. You had mentioned that obviously the savings is great with this, probably $15,000 on reviews and building permits and things like that. It was probably going to be more than $20,000 saved. So are there other fees associated with this permit process outside of our city that are still intact? Like, is there a fee to get the fire department to sign off on this for the builder or for the homeowner?
Yes, all the other fees by all the other agency are the same. So if it's more than 500 square feet, the school district would charge a school fee. That's, that's just standard.
Okay.
As far as the fire sprinkler system, if it's needed, it would be through LA County Fire. They would issue the permit for the sprinkler system, and they would inspect that, and there would be fee associated with that.
Okay, and is that on our FAQs that, this really does only pertain to, obviously, to city fees, but that fees from other outside agencies would still apply?
I don't remember. I think we touched on that, but if not, we definitely will add that.
Yeah, I think we need to make that clear. And then, apologies if this is a silly question, but if it's all over the counter, how do you know, for example, that it's the right size for the right lot? They're obviously submitting some kind of site plan. Is that how you will confirm that the setbacks are right, that you don't have too big of an ADU on a space that's not big enough? How do you confirm that it's the right size for the right space?
Yes, I mean that is part of that review. The
site plan.
The site plan is to basically, there's a whole list of items that we would look for, setback and the connection to the utilities, just the more basic information, most often associated with land use and zoning requirements.
So are we helping the resident download their site plan, or how are they getting their site plan? Are they contracting out with a builder? How does that site plan with the proposed ADU get to you?
Well, in the standard set, basically there's 36 sheets of plans. So on the front sheet, we call the title sheet, there will be information that the applicant would need to fill out, the basic zoning and property information. And then there's also the second sheet, not the second in the set, but the second sheet that the applicant would need to kind of prepare is the site plan. And so they would basically give us 2 sheets of plans, the title sheet and the site plan that has all the information that we will review.
Okay. And so you never need to go out to that site and visit it?
No, that would be a part of the inspection.
Oh, the inspection. Yeah. Okay, Great. And then my last question is, and apologies if I missed it somewhere, but did our architectural review committee or the Old Agoura Homeowners Association, has anyone outside of us reviewed these three models, architectural models?
Yes, in the fall, the architectural review panel did review it, and we made adjustments to, we had the consultants that were designing the facades on the call along with staff, and they gave feedback. And we also reached out to the Old Agoura. It was in the fall around the time that we brought it forward to the planning committee or the city council, and we did receive some feedback from Danny Farkash, who was responsible for doing reviews at that time.
Great. Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Councilmember Anstead?
Just one quick question. Has RRM given any cost estimates for what each one of these, approximately like a ballpark figure on what they expect the cost to be to build each one of these models?
They have not, but it's not. It could be 300,000. It could be 500,000. It's, you know, I mean, you send out a set of plans for bid, you get.
Got it.
No, it's all over the place. So.
Okay. I just thought I'd ask. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mayor Pro Tem
I'd
Sylvester?
just like to follow up. I think anytime you have building plans, it depends on the individual too, because whatever goes inside it, this is just the structure, correct, for each of these, and then what they do inside, you know, depending on what kind of wood they want on the floor and things like that, it's going to vary the cost.
Yeah, it depends. You want a GE or you want a Viking, you know. One is like $2,000, one is
Yes.
15 grand, you know.
Yeah. But the nice thing about this is that they have something to work from. They don't have to go and create the initial plan.
Yes.
The only question I have is that when I look at in the staff report and you're talking about the FAQs, can you explain to me, it says, for example, photovoltaic solar required, but deferred under a separate permit. Does that mean because you would need to have a separate permit for solar, that it's not included in the project? It's an additional.
Yes, correct. So the way that it usually works when you build a house, usually it's hard for a solar company to kind of design it a year ahead of time to have the solar. So usually it's deferred until the house is almost done, at least it's framed, the roof is up there, so that they can get the angle and the angle of the sun and how much sunlight availability, so that when they submit their solar, it would be correct. And also, you know, solar, you know, in a year time, you can have 5 different solar company being replaced. So, you know, it's deferred. It needs to be installed, but it's usually deferred until a later time, and it's not an upfront permit.
So when you say that it's required, can you just walk me through that? So does somebody get their certificate of occupancy, and then they come back to the city? Like, do they have a certain amount of time until they have to install the solar?
No, it's required before it's final or the certificate of occupancy is issued. So usually toward the end of the framing, or at least, you know, when the roof is up, that's when the contractor or the homeowner would bring in the solar company to start designing the solar system, the PV system for them. So once it's done, then they install the solar. So it wouldn't be required to be installed before we final the project.
Okay, thank you. I think I had another question. So, and just to be clear, so what we're giving our residents, which has significant value, is we're giving them a plan. They don't need an architect, they don't need to have somebody draw up the plan, but there are additional fees both in the city and outside of the city?
There are not anything more than what's normal.
Right.
In fact, it's less because we're not doing the plan review, the building and safety plan review portion. So that, maybe $1,000 to $2,000 there of saving that they have.
But they still need to pay a permit fee,
They
correct?
still have, because that accounts for the inspection part of it.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. I don't have any further questions. Are there any other questions? Okay, then we will move on. Let's see here. This section is reserved for public comment. If you wish to speak, please submit a public comment card to the city clerk. Public testimony is limited to 3 minutes per speaker, and a speaker's time may not be transferred to another speaker. We respectfully request that if you have something to distribute to the council, you hand it to our city clerk and do not approach the dais. I will now defer to the city clerk.
Thank you. No written public comments or speaker cards have been submitted.
Thank you. Does any council member have any further questions?
Sorry, can I just ask one question about solar?
Sure.
Is this the only time that we require it? Because we don't require it on new homes, or do we? New homes that are being built, are they required to put solar on?
Yes, they are.
They are now. When did that come in?
I think probably in the last code cycle. 2022.
So,
I think before the cycle, before they wanted solar ready, I
right.
think all the,
So this is a standard now for any building in the city that has to have solar.
new construction.
Yes, new construction.
There's some exceptions if it's prefab structure, like mobile homes and those
Right.
are exempt because they're under different,
So a prefab ADU
would not be required to have solar.
would not.
Would not.
Thank you.
The questions? Seeing none, then let's start our, we'll now move on to deliberations. Why don't we start with you, Councilmember Anstead?
Thank you. I think this is excellent. I mean, I think the less variability is the number one thing that I really like for the city, to have consistency with there's three models, and that we're encouraging the residents to try to use those models by offering these site plans and all the stuff for free, where they have to pay for it if they do it on their own. I think it's a fantastic program. I like the fact that we also kind of have the FAQs and walk them through the exact process in order for them to complete their ADU. And so it makes it easier for them, homeowners in our community, to be able to build the ADUs. So I'm all for it. I think it's the staff did an excellent job on this program. I want to commend the staff on it, and I'm ready to move forward and make the findings. Thank you.
Thank you. How about you, Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester?
I second what Councilmember Ansett said. I think compliment you on getting us in there right at the beginning before it was even demanded of us. So thank you for that. I'm sure a lot of other cities will be looking at what we're doing and will probably just say, can we have your plans? You know? But I agree, it's nice to cut the time down for residents and to make it as simple, although building is not simple, but as easy as possible for them and their contractors. So I can make all the findings. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, I'm sorry, I was going to call you Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Klein-Lopez.
Thank you. I also want to thank staff for doing such a fantastic job, and I always love being the leaders in the area. It's not just in this area, but we are often ahead of the curve with some of our neighbors, and they look to us, they turn to us, and I'm proud of that. So thank you for making us look good at that. I think it's a fantastic option for people. It's just an option, right? It's nothing that's mandatory. If someone doesn't like our plans or it doesn't fit within the scope of what they want to build, they don't have to use it. So there's no downside. And I think right now in a post-COVID world where supplies and materials and labor have really skyrocketed, to be able to give our residents some money-saving options, I think is really important. Anybody who's done anything in construction in the last couple of years has known that the costs are just through the roof, and time is through the roof, labor, all of it. So if we can help in this small way, I think it's fantastic. I also really appreciate, thank you for reminding me, that we did have community input on this. We had our architectural review panel. We got input from the Old Agoura Homeowners Association, or Danny, which is super important because those are the lots that are really most that are going to be most affected by ADUs. So I want to thank you again. I can make all the findings. Happy to proceed, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Wolf.
Echo my fellow council members. Thank you for the work you put into this and for being proactive on this. Really, one of the most consequential state laws that has really gone into effect is this ministerial over-the-counter of the ADUs. We see them popping up a lot within certain parts of our city, and the fact that we've gotten in front of this and that we're getting kind of organized, it's appreciated. I think it's a great benefit to the residents too, that they can come in and they can point to something and say, this is what I want. So thank you for your work on this. I can make all the findings.
Thank you. I don't have a lot to add other than, first of all, I want to agree with Councilmember Klein-Lopez. We're not going to have any programs if you keep this up to attend at the Cal Cities conference every year, because we go up there and we're like, well, we already do that. We already do that. We already do that. So thank you. And we do brag about being ahead of the curve. So don't think it just stays within the 5 of us. We tell everybody about how advanced some of the programs we have. So thank you for the hard work. This was a tremendous amount of work, and I really appreciate all that you did. I think that once the ball really gets rolling and people take it and run with it, that it's going to probably be far simpler for them. I think that, there's always, I was on the planning commission before I was elected to the city council, and we were always getting the complaint that it's like, oh my God, every time I come in, there's like one more detail, and there's another detail, and another detail, and another detail. And so it's a lot of work to put these up on your own and get your own architect and get your own consultants and all of that. And I think that this, we came up with 3 different designs with 3 different sizes. I think you did a good job of listening to our input back in the fall, as well as the input of the community on what those ADUs should look like. And I really hope people take advantage of, this slice that will make their life easier. And so thank you for all the work that you do, and thank you, council, for being ahead of the game on that one. So this staff recommendation is to adopt resolution number 24-2054. And I'll call for a motion in a second, and will you please state your names for the record?
This Councilmember Anstead, I'll make the motion to approve the resolution 24-2054.
Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester seconds.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, will you take a roll call vote?
Councilmember Anstead?
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Wolf?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester?
Aye.
Mayor Buckley Weber?
Aye.
Mayor Buckley Weber, you have approval, 5-0.
Thank you very much, and thank you, everybody. Are there any comments from our staff tonight? Nothing? Okay. Well, I'm going to make an announcement. Sadly, an active member of our community, Sherry Karp, passed away very unexpectedly and suddenly this week. And we're going to, I can see you must know Sherry Karp. I'm sorry to be telling you that in a public arena. It's very sad. So we're going to adjourn tonight's meeting in her memory. I think everyone knew Sherry one way or another. Sherry and her husband moved to Agoura Hills in 1983. Her husband is Jared, and she, like so many of us, moved here because it's an ideal place to raise a family. Those are her words, and I think we all agree with that. Sherry was born and raised in Southern California, attended college at the American University in Washington, D.C., receiving a BA degree with 3 majors, including art and education. Sherry was a teacher until she started her real estate career in 1987 and has been a successful top producer ever since. In 2007, she was awarded Agent of the Year for 2006, and this award was extremely important to her because it was voted on by her peers. Sherry and Jared are members of the CARP Group, one of the strongest and most successful real estate teams in the Conejo Valley. Daughter Melissa Karp Horowitz joined the CARP Group in 2003, and it was a real family team. In Sherry's spare time, she painted portraits and figures in oil, which I did not know. She volunteered her home as a polling place for her precinct at one point in time and was involved in our schools and very supportive of our local synagogues and the Jewish community. Sherry was a member of the city's Cultural Arts Council for years and helped launch the solo art shows at the Adobe with Jane Seymour and Wes Van Dyke, to name a few. Sherry was very active in the Morrison Ranch HOA and was instrumental in recently helping the Goldman family launch the fundraising effort for the Morrison Park Playground Project. In fact, her family is asking for people to make donations to the project in lieu of flowers. Sherry came into the council chambers on a number of occasions and was a strong advocate for Agoura Village and more housing. She was always respectful and kind while fighting for what she believed was in the best interest of our residents. Sherry will be missed by so many in the Conejo Valley, and I send my heartfelt condolences on behalf of the city to Jared, Melissa, her grandchildren Gavin and Logan, and to all who love and admired her. The funeral is being held at 10 a.m. at the Mount Sinai Cemetery in Simi Valley. On Friday, I'm sorry, this coming Friday, which is the 12th. Thank you. So in thinking about Sherry and other people who come in here who may have a different view of what their vision of the city is. And she wanted a very vibrant city and a lot of development, and she was very supportive of that. And yet we all still got along, and she was respectful to the council, even if she was complaining about us. And I think of her right now, because even Mr. Linder was saying something tonight about, just people having different views, and they come into the council to talk to us. And the narrative across our country right now is how we don't get along. We're so separated, we can't even talk to each other. And all I would ask is that everybody flip that narrative, because that's not true in Agoura Hills. That's not the way we treat each other. It's not the way we act. We get along for the most part, even when we disagree with each other. So it's a new year. 2024 is an election year, which is going to be a tough one anyways, and I say, come on, Agoura Hills, we're going to flip that narrative. We're going to be respectful. Come into our chambers and talk to us. We want to hear, we want to get the input, and we can do this. We have always done it. We've always basically gotten along, and we can continue to do that. So in memory of Sherry, not only do I close, but I encourage people who disagree with me to come into chambers and give me your thoughts, and just do it respectfully and kindly like she always did. She always gave me a hug, even though she knows that, we had the same values about having well-kept up parks, which is why she's so involved in the Morrison Park. But, she didn't have the same views about open space necessarily as I did. And so, I'm heartbroken that she's gone, and she's going to be missed in this city. She stood up for the other side. So thank you, Sherry, for all the years that you did come in. And again, I send my condolences to her family. So do we have any other comments from city council members? Councilmember Klein-Lopez?
I just want to echo your statement on the loss of Sherry. I grew up in Morrison Ranch in the 80s, and so Sherry really was a household name. I mean, you couldn't grow up in this town and not know who Sherry was. So I always knew of Sherry. She was always, her face, her name was everywhere. And then I had my first, experience with Sherry when I was running for office. And boy, she called me up and she demanded a meeting with me and another family who the husband in that family had been a city manager in another city, so he knew all the questions to ask. She had her holistic questions, and I mean, they grilled me. Not sure that I was their candidate. I'll never know, but to your point, Mayor Buckley Weber, they were so respectful. They were so passionate And it really was based in the love of Agoura Hills. It really was a view that Sherry had, that she wanted to make Agoura Hills an even better place to live than it already was. So I echo your sentiments of loss, and especially for the Morrison Ranch community who knew her so well, and appreciate the love that she had for our city. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I'd just like to make a brief comment.
Go right ahead.
Sherry was the first person we met when we came looking for a home, because she was our realtor, and she found us our forever home. So I'm forever grateful for that, and I really appreciate the words you spoke this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Not seeing anything else then. The next regular City Council meeting is scheduled for 6 p.m. on Wednesday, January 24th, 2024, in the council chambers of the Civic Center located at 3001 Ladyface Court, Agoura Hills, California. Will the maker of the motion and second to adjourn in memory of Sherry Karp please state your names?
This was Deborah Klein Lopez. I will make the motion to adjourn this meeting in the memory of Sherry Karp.
This is Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester. I will second.
Thank you. This meeting is now adjourned.
Oh, we have to vote, don't we?
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to divert to the clerk for a vote.
It's okay. Well,
it is officially not adjourned.
if I might defer really quickly to Candace, I believe it's okay. We'll do it by consensus because we've already adjourned. No?
We can do it.
What's interesting is there's a lot of cities who don't even vote on adjourning. The mayor just adjourns. So whatever you would like to do.
Okay. I'll do the roll call.
I want to make sure that the meeting is officially adjourned.
Okay.
So when I walk out to my car, I'm not on the record.
We'll do that. Councilmember Anstead.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Wolf.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester.
Aye.
Mayor Buckley Weber.
Aye.
Mayor Buckley Weber, you have approval 5-0.
Thank you very much, everybody, for being here tonight. We appreciate your input.